Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Here on Anatomy of a Movie, we dissect Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles out of the shadows. That's right. April O'Neil is back, and so are the Turtles, as well as Vern. And we get some new characters, Bebop, Rocksteady, and Casey Jones. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Anatomy of a Movie.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anatomy of a Movie, where we dissect movies in depth. Today, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the 2016 version, not the 1990s version.
Secret of the Use.
That's right. As always, it's spoiler-filled, so if you haven't seen the movie quite yet, check back in once you have. Also, you can download our rundown in the description, so that way you can kind of follow along. We don't always touch upon every little thing, but there's a lot of great tidbits in there. For you to kind of browse through and know what we've found, so that way you have it as well. We have Demetri Panos.
Hello, movie fans. How are ya?
That's right. He's DMovies1701 on Twitter. And we have that Zach Wilson in that booth over there.
Hey, guys. I'm excited to talk Turtles.
That's right. That's right. I gotta say...
Turtle talk.
Turtle talk, indeed. I gotta say, overall, the first movie, to me, wasn't that great, but it wasn't bad. And this one just delivered on what the Turtles, to me, have always... just fun and things like that. No, it doesn't quite live up to the original. You know, I just love the live-action one. I think that will forever be the best one in my mind, just because that's such a history. But this one was fun, and I know there was a couple of things that were iterated to the kids, because, I think they were drawing in that crowd, and I was like, okay, it's not for me, because they're hitting this over the head. Right. And if it was more of an adult movie, you could cut some of that stuff out. But I didn't mind it. The only thing was, my only complaint was I came out hungry because I wanted pizza. So, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can say that you enjoyed it. I think it's fine. You're in a safe environment here.
Hopefully.
This movie didn't make me angry. I remember a couple of years ago when the first one had come out, I didn't know what to expect. I grew up during the entire Turtles fanfare comics, the cartoon and that first live action movie, which, you have to give props to that one because of the costuming. They really did come to life. And at that time period, it wasn't in a cheesy way, and it brought the Turtles to life. And I thought that first movie really captured the essence. The first movie in this reboot somewhat captured the essence between our turtles, our pizza-loving turtles. But I felt this movie was more of a throwback to that original movie into the cartoon.
Yeah.
They seem to have a little bit more fun now. And they were bringing in characters like Bebop, Rocksteady, Casey Jones, but even Krang, who was such a staple.
Never in the comics, though. It wasn't in the comics.
But in the animated.
Absolutely, the
staple
cartoon.
in the animated, and it was never in the live action that I recall either. But I felt that they did a really good balance. It was an enjoyable movie. I get it. It's a family comedy action movie. My only complaint is that for me, it just ran a little too long. Mm-hmm. Ran a little too long. Got almost a little too talky in that middle period there. I wanted a little more turtle power.
Got it. And you know what? One of the things I will say about Krang, I love the fact that for a long time, once we finally get to the end and the turtles are there, they make fun of him. What is this, a piece of chewed up gum with eyeballs?
Yeah.
So yeah. I like that they call to it, because it's always one of those things that I remember, like, wait, he looks weird.
I want to know why there was never a Total Recall. Because he's what's that character's in? Quattro comes out of the guy's chest. I want to know why there wasn't but maybe that reference would have gone over.
How many 12-year-olds do you think have seen Total Recall?
All of them.
All of them, indeed. So yeah, I think it just captured the spirit, and the things that the first one got right, and they built upon that, and the things that the first one got wrong, they got rid
fixed.
of. So
absolutely.
So 100%. And we knew this was happening after the success of the first one. 2 days later, Paramount's is like, we're doing this. We're going. And so that was to be expected.
Zach, what did you think of of this go around.
You know, it had a lot of stuff that I loved. I think similar to the first one, they got the turtles right. Like the voices of the turtles were spot on, like individually. As a movie, not so great. The script was like, just because it's for kids doesn't mean it has to be like bad dialogue. So some of the dialogue was just like painful at times, but like the characterization, the visuals were just fun to watch, and that's mostly that's all I wanted to see. This was clearly like there's a difference. Like I will always love the first Turtles movie because it's a good movie at just beginning to end. It's a good movie on its own. It was an adaptation of the comic book, and it was a good adaptation of the comics. This is clearly an adaptation of the animated series, and they're very different things, but there's no reason that both can't exist.
Yeah. Very cool. And, you know, interestingly enough, they had planned to have Bebop and Rocksteady in the first one, or they wanted to, but it just never worked out in that way.
That makes sense to me, though. I mean,
it was just
it would have been too much.
You just need an origin story.
Yeah.
And ironically, Bebop and Rocksteady were supposed to be in Secret of the Ooze, but for whatever, I forget, it was like a contractual negotiation thing. They couldn't actually use them. So hence we got, I forget those two characters' names.
Razor and, I forget what the wolf was.
Yeah, I forget.
Something ridiculous and silly.
Indeed. And, you know, in terms of the development of all of this, instead of Jonathan Liebsman returning to the project, they have Dave Green, the Earth to Echo director, who we'll talk about at greater length, you know, but overall, needless to say, huge Turtles fan, and I think he delivered that into all of this.
Yeah.
However, the writing team, Jonathan Applebaum and Andre Nemec, they were a part of the original one,
right?
And so they kind of, developed that, as it were.
Well, and it seems too that they did take a lot of, let's call it constructive criticism. Let's suggestion. You know, they saw the first movie, and Paramount and the creatives looked at it and said, you know, you can't deny its success, but it's like, okay, the fans were looking, you know, we want a little bit more of this. And what I really appreciate is that I think under the direction of Dave Green, who is such a big fan, it almost seems that the writing seemed to, okay, this guy, yeah, he's a fan. He gets this. You know, we're getting 10 million more added to what the budget for the first one is, and we're gonna have a little more fun with this. We'll make it a little bit lighter in tone. We'll get our turtle, you know, our turtles talking and eating pizza and doing their skateboarding, and we're gonna have we're gonna incorporate a lot of these things that for many kids today, they're watching the cartoon. You know, I know the comic is still popular, not at its height, but I think kids are more on that visual sense of they're going to watch the cartoon, they get it, they'll enjoy this movie more. And it just seemed a concerted effort to let's work together because we're all fans of Turtles, and I think that shows on screen.
Yeah,
from a writing aspect.
Yeah, so you know, story-wise, what I loved was just the opening sequence to me set the tone perfectly, because you don't know, okay, where are they going? There's some sort of formation. They're racing through New York. You don't know to where. Oh, and it's the next game with pizza, because that's important to the Turtles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it was such a great turn and reveal that it set it up perfectly. And from there, I knew, for whatever reason, I was in good hands.
Yeah.
And that was the enjoyable part to me.
It was fun. I mean, the thing that I think that, especially that sequence accomplished, that even like to a certain extent the original set of movies never did, is that they actually felt like teenagers.
Yes.
As opposed to just like, these are turtles who are ninjas. Like, these are actually like grown children.
Yeah.
They're not like just adults who are silly.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yeah, and I agree. They really did the teenage aspect of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really showcased in this. Again, the opening scene, pizza and basketball, and we've got the greatest seats in the house, and they were so proud and happy, and like, you know, they get to watch together and have fun at a live sporting event, which
And
is
shoot
popular.
spitballs.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was, you know, and that's the kind of thing that this movie got right.
Absolutely.
I think. Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and again, that it also set the tone in that regard, right? Where Vern, we kind of get his backstory of the arrangement and stuff like that, and that's where I also knew the tone was also going to be very much geared for kids, because the exposition was a little bit on the nose at that point. But again, it just set it up in the right way for me, where I was like, okay, I don't mind it, because it's masked at the very least behind such comedic elements of the Turtles.
Right, and a Turtles story doesn't have to be. When I go to a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, or if it's a cartoon or whatever, I'm not looking for the in-depthness of like a Marvel type of a movie. Like, this is definitely geared. Obviously, it's geared to a younger crowd, but where the original movies got worse, you know, and the stories became, you know, sillier, their budgets got slashed. This one, at least, it didn't get worse, but I think it became more playful, which I think is good. You know, for however the franchise may decide to go. You know, it's cool that we talked about Dave Green being a fan, because he was a fan. He watched the cartoon, you know, with his friends after school. He was about 8 or 9 years old, and he felt that these characters were easy to connect with, and he totally wanted to breathe that kind of life and make the characters relatable, connectable to the kids today who are going to go watch the Turtles. And I think he did a really good job. I got a better sense of the brothers in this movie than I did from the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, most people cite the elevator scene from the first one. Had they had more of that,
Yes.
that would have made that one for much more better. I mean, it just became the backstory to the Turtles was just so convoluted, and they were trying to connect so many different things, of Eric Sachs to April to the Turtles. It just, you didn't quite need it. And this time around, we're just going on the journey and we're following them, because we don't need it. You know, we just need to know what they're about. One of the things, you know, we keep calling this kind of a kids movie, but might as well just talk about it now, real fast. It's rated PG-13, and News OK came out with Out of the Shadows rides a very fine line between PG and PG-13. It was probably a studio decision to drive for more of the marketable PG-13 rating, but I also imagine there were conscious decisions not to alienate likely viewers as well. In the end, language is the biggest factor for my 10 up and up parental rating for Out of the Shadows. So it's interesting, you know, I mean, there's very little here that fully makes it a PG-13 movie. Right. I mean, the article cites very specific instances of harsher language. But
Megan Fox's miniskirt is responsible for PG-13.
It could very well be. I could have gone home after that scene. But, no, you know, I was trying to figure out, going in, I was trying to figure out what makes this PG-13 other than other movies. You know, we talked about this at great length when we talked about The Jungle Book, which I believe got a PG rating. The last quarter of The Jungle Book is some of the most intense footage, chase scenes, like literally edge of your seat kind of things. And I'm like going, how do they distinguish? Like, how does that get a PG rating? That's clearly, like, that had kids like scared.
And they should be scared.
Well, but again, how do you distinguish between, how does this become PG-13? Is it truly like what Zach said, because we got Megan Fox in a Catholic schoolgirl's uniform? Or what I was trying to even think, what language was there?
There was like a curse word thrown out. I don't think it was
shit.
I think it could have been shit.
You know,
I think it could have been shit.
So that gives it a PG-13.
I feel like that would have stood out if they'd said that. Like, I would have noticed that. and I don't remember them swearing.
Zach, can you do me a favor?
I'll try to look it up while
just literally
while we
look
go.
up News OK Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, and it should be like the third or second or maybe fourth paragraph.
I just always find, we've talked about this ratings thing. I just always find it so crazy how the MPAA will distinguish. Again, I'll just go back to the Jungle Book, and I'm not knocking Jungle Book. I think it's one of the best this year. But again, the last quarter of that movie is so intense. I'm like, really? An 8-year-old should be seeing this? Or even the other scene in the Jungle Book when the villain takes the father and like literally hucks him off a cliff.
Spoiler alert.
Well, I'm like,
Don't worry,
really?
everyone's seen Jungle Book.
Yeah.
The numbers indicate. So.
Yes, but I'm just saying, like, how they kept a PG rating, and yet Turtles gets a PG-13. I'm like, for what? Like, this is just pure family comedy, kids type of movie that I didn't find anything offensive.
Honestly, I think it could have came down to.
Did Paramount not pay the MPAA enough?
Listen, I mean, the Megan Fox scene, right? So might as well, let's talk about April.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, one of the Megan Fox says of April this time around is the fact that last time she was trying to prove something, you know, obviously to be a great news reporter, and now it's more about just doing good, let's say, right? And so, you know, that was a big shift in her character, and I thought it worked well, but at the same time. Here's the thing. I don't think we need more of April. I think she played the right amount in it because, again, if everyone's kind of perhaps saying, like, oh, they wanted to see a little bit more out of April, and the whole point was, no, you didn't, because she did a lot more in the first one. We all disliked it.
Right. My only issue there is I did wish we saw a little bit more of her reporting, because until the very end of the movie, I said, is she no longer a reporter? Like, did she quit? Like, what sort of kind of happened there?
She's on the spotlight team.
She's so, you know, but in it came, at the very end, she's behind she's in front of the camera again, with her team working. But yeah, no, April was in the movie for just the right amount of time. I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, she's a friend of the Turtles. She needed to be that bridge between Turtles and Casey Jones. And I thought that was perfect. I thought that worked really good. I like the introduction of Casey Jones in this movie, and who they had to play him. Steve
Amell.
Steve Amell, who, listen, I've been saying for a long time, why are we not farming? Like, why are we not growing there are some great actors there's some very good actors on TV who could handle action and maybe some other genres if just given the chance, because they do such a good job on their respective shows. Steve Amell is one of these people. So it's good to see him, it's good that he was able to find it in his schedule and work that out to be in this movie. It's a big movie. He's still being an action hero, so to speak. He's maybe he's no Elias Koteas from the original Turtles movie, but no, he brings Casey Jones to life in a really solid way, and he's very believable, and he's funny. And the scenes that he has with April O'Neil are really good, and she's that great bridge into introducing this character to the Turtles.
I don't know. Casey Jones was the thing that I think I had the most problems with in this
Really?
movie. And I mean, a lot of it came down to just the way he was written, not necessarily Stephen Amell's performance. I liked Stephen Amell. Like, he's a good. He's proven on Arrow that he's a very capable actor, but like, I want to be a police detective, Chief. It's my only dream. Like, he kept just saying, and like they wrote him almost like he was a teenager, as opposed to somebody who's like an adult and has been working, like trying to get to a job. Like, he was just given very childish language to use while he was talking.
Well, that's one of those things that I write off. They made it for the kids, right? I mean, if you're a kid and you're kind of, how do you learn about the motivation? I remember half the times the movies that I saw that were a little bit more adult, I liked them, but I didn't understand what the hell the plot was.
Yeah.
This, again, if you're a kid, I don't think you can confuse, or certainly they've made it so that it's very hard to confuse it.
Yeah, go
that's a
ahead, Zach. I'm
byproduct.
sorry. Go ahead.
It was just like, I mean, I guess there is a certain. It's a tough line to walk, and it's tough to know where you need to fall for a kids movie, because at a certain point, like, I think that you can trust that kids will at least understand the base of where you're going. Like, as you said, Phil, like, you still enjoyed it even if you didn't quite grasp it all. But he was just a little too. It was just a little too heavy for me. And it was just like he wasn't like he needed more work as far as, like, not just like I want to be a detective as his backstory, but like what is it? All the pieces? It was just he was going through the Casey Jones motions. I would have loved to like see him play hockey for a moment, like as opposed to just like mention it briefly and then have this stuff in the back of his car. I think they just could have worked to develop his character more, not necessarily be dark, but be a little bit more engaged in like his story and what got him here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought that Steve Amell played him really well. You know, to your point, I'm not expecting out of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie like this to have great backstory revelation. You know, I thought it was fine the way, I was glad that he was introduced. He's a very popular character. It gives Steve Amell an opportunity to be in what it's a summer tentpole kind of a movie. And the thing is that he almost wasn't in the movie. He had a meeting with the producers, but it wasn't really about Casey Jones, he says, because there wasn't any chance at all, he says, with my Arrow schedule, that I'd be able to film a movie like this. So when we found out that I actually was going to be able to do it, and I got the go-ahead from Warner Brothers about finishing my finishing and start dates for Arrow, I did a tape that afternoon. That was a Tuesday, and that Friday afternoon, I was testing with Megan Fox. Monday morning, I got a phone call from my agents, and it was a good call, and they were like, "You are to be expecting a Michael Bay phone call," and that was it. So I mean, I think that's he goes from not being able to do a movie that in all intents and purposes it looked like he was looking forward to be a part of, and the stars aligned for him.
What's funny is I was listening to an interview that Megan Fox gave on K-Rock, Kevin and Bean, earlier this week, and she had no idea who Stephen Amell was when she did chemistry tests with him. He just came and she's like, I didn't know you had a TV show, until like people were like stopping them to like talk to him.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That he was like a well-respected member of like the geek TV
the geek
community.
TV, absolutely. And he is. And he talked about the dynamics on set, and he even went off and said, it was a great time. And he felt like that guy who was coming in on a sequel where a chemistry is already established on set amongst your principals. And, he even goes, the boys who play the turtles have to spend a lot of time together. And they were busting on each other all the time, always making fun of each other. He said they started making fun of me by hour 4 of the first time I filmed with them. And he was like, that was great. I'm being accepted here. It was super quiet, standoffish. He goes, if it was super quiet and standoffish, he goes, I would have been worried. Mm-hmm. But he seemed to have been accepted, within hour 4. And you can tell there is that sort of kind of camaraderie on the set amongst your principal actors. I do think that is something that, yes, a 12-year-old boy isn't going to really pick up on that. But I did pick up on that watching this movie. And Steve Amell obviously being there.
Yeah, and I think he cited it as well, and then Megan Fox reiterates it, like she is the mother hen.
Yeah.
In many ways, and she says like she actually likes that role.
Yeah.
Because by default she's oftentimes the only woman there.
Right.
And and it mirrors her real life, because obviously she's got now sons and whatnot, and she's got a husband, so she's just always constantly surrounded by boys, and so she's gotten used to that sort of dynamic.
Yeah, and she was a good woman in film. I don't recall in this movie that she was ever needing to be rescued or she could stand up and help escape from a place.
I mean, the only thing she made Vern do it, fight the foot soldier, so people kind of cite that as she's weak. But it is.
That didn't strike me as anything like anti-feminist. That was more like, I don't want to attack the ninja. Like, both of these people are unqualified to attack a ninja. She's not a trained fighter. Neither is he.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to do it. You do it.
You do it.
Which, to me, that's treating everybody equally, because that's how those characters should and would behave.
I think so.
I think they did good enough work, like trying to make it that like she doesn't need anybody's help.
Yeah.
Like she stands up like Casey Jones, like no, I can do this myself, like enough, and she's hitting people over the head with like a pipe wrench or like a lead pipe, whatever she found in that alley.
Yeah, and
like they treated her with respect.
And she's the turtles'
least.
best friend, too. So she's got that going for her, and she's their conduit to society, so to speak. If you want to get getting metaphorically deep, but no, I thought she was fine. It's they'll never look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a movie that would showcase, women, but she is a strong character regardless. And if there are girls who are going to this, they're not going to see her as a pushover.
Yeah, God forbid they try to add Venus into this. That's the female turtle.
I mean, to be fair, I looked into it, and April was, to begin with, she was never really that written as a strong character, unfortunately. I mean, there's an episode in particular, the Catwoman from Channel 6, where April investigates dangerous matter, and she becomes part cat. And the butt of the joke at the end is that April is safe and back to human form, and she feels, quote, awful because my nails are absolutely ruined from walking around on all fours. Raphael says, yep, she's back to being a woman, all right. So, again, this is the cartoon, so this is the source material that we're going off of.
Right.
It's, it's not that far off.
Yeah.
I will admit, like, when they first announced the last movie, I was disappointed that they didn't go with the current comics iteration of April, who is a scientist, not a journalist. And she worked in the lab that the turtles were in, that the ooze is being made, and it made for a much more interesting character. But the modern comics are that darker tone that the originals had as well. So I understand not digging too deep into that version of it.
Has anybody watched the more modern cartoon? I haven't.
I haven't. No. But it's interesting you say that, because in some ways they kind of went in that direction, where the dad was the scientist and she was always hanging out in the lab, and so she knew a little bit of science.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't take it to the full extent of that, and nothing more there beyond that.
Yeah, it was an interesting way, like when I first picked up that run, to make her like a stronger character without like just making her physically stronger, because that's not what that character is. She's not a fighter, but it did make her interesting to read and powerful in her own way.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So back to the question at hand. Was it too gratuitous, the skirt shot of Megan Fox, or not?
I mean, by Michael Bay standards, no. It was pretty tame.
Are you kidding? Yeah, by Michael Bay standards. Man, he never met one of his female actresses that his camera didn't love to zoom around. But no, I didn't find it at all. They were even it was extremely even tame walking through what appeared, I believe, was Union Station in New York City, which, again, kudos, because they pretty much filmed all of this movie within New York, which is,
unheard of these days.
Unheard of, yeah. They would have doubled Canada. And I was actually surprised they went to Brazil. Actually spent money to go to Brazil instead of just, let's find a place with a lot of trees here that we can use. But they went to Brazil. But that scene I didn't find gratuitous at all. I mean, there were other seemingly, they were probably in their 20s, I guess, all dressed up in the same type of uniform, and they seem to be on some semblance of a scavenger hunt for school, I guess, that she got wrapped up in.
The weird, like, let's take pictures with random dudes in Grand Central Station.
Yes. Yeah. I was like,
what weirdo suggested that game?
But Dimitri, I think you're right. Like it wasn't like she was just it wasn't like they just put her in that costume.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what April O'Neil wears. It was like she put it on, at least for a purpose, like something she was actively doing, like
Right.
trying to go undercover. So, yes, it was a little over the top, but I guess we're just so desensitized to it at this point from like her in Transformers. That it's like almost just like whatever, this is fine.
I also gotta think, like, even when I was a little boy, like, it didn't mean I was like I wouldn't notice something like that. Like I would notice stuff watching Star Trek. Like, you know, a little boy might notice, wow, whoa, that's a girl. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't find it, but it wasn't exploitive. She got that information. I liked her scene with Baxter. So to speak, that was very funny. You know, I'm sure we'll talk a little Tyler Perry in a little bit, but I didn't find it gratuitous. I didn't find the movie itself to be gratuitous, whether it in its violence, its humor, its language. I found it to be very safe.
For what it's worth, while we're still in April, Serenity Q26, who's joining us live on YouTube, which if you guys don't know, you can always tune in live on Friday afternoons.
Hi, Serenity.
And they were saying that April, in the current cartoon, is trained in ninjutsu. So she is a fighter, but they're not. I don't think they clearly haven't gone with that version of the character in these movies.
Yeah. But
Maybe eventually.
That's a great comment.
Absolutely.
And thanks for listening.
Let's talk about Vern.
Okay.
Only because, I mean, you know, he was such a fun. You know, some people liked him, some people didn't like him. I actually liked him a lot in the first one.
Sure, me too.
And maybe that's because I'm a huge Will Arnett fan, and I love his kind of bumbling dialogue in general, whether it's Job from Arrested Development or whatever it may be. So I always enjoy seeing him, and just in this regard, where he's hailed as a hero, but not really. I thought it was a lot of fun, and then when he actually has to live up to it,
Right.
you know, I thought that was a good arc for him in general.
Yeah. I mean, Will Arnett, too, you know, it's hard to not pay attention to that voice and cadence, which makes him so funny to begin with. And he plays that role of, I'm a man's man, and that's on parody. It's done on purpose. He's funny. He's a funny guy. I like, you know, I enjoyed the fact that they let the audience know there's an arrangement. You know, the main fact this movie's called Out of the Shadows is because our heroes in a half shell are still in the sewers. They haven't made themselves public because they're afraid of the ridicule that will happen with that. And with making the arrangement with Vern, they couldn't have picked a better person to do it. And he was going to ride that wave for as long as he could. And everywhere he went, he goes, yeah, you know me, I got the keys to the city. You know, I'm like, oh, you're that guy.
And
It was great.
And
it's funny.
The physical comedy that they gave him too, just the whole, he's got to retrieve the footage or whatever, and he's tracing the wire. Mm-hmm. And just the physicality of it to come back to the same entry point.
Right. Yeah.
It just played really, really well.
Yeah.
And he plays so well. He understood it, and he knew how to play that. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, he was, in the scene where, and that was like a really funny scene when they're deciding what part of the mission to take. Am I going to face off against these ninjas, or am I going to go do this? And it's like Casey Jones says, "Oh, well, would you rather?" And he's like, he's looking, no, I'll go do that. He will wimp out when necessary for him to wimp out at the right time. Yeah. So, what did you think of our character Vern?
I mean, he was fun. Like
Yeah.
he did what he needed to do. He's a good. It's not really a movie that needs comic relief, but he did serve that purpose.
Yeah, on the human side of things. Yeah.
I mean, it was like because the things he was involved in, like this stuff at the Knicks game where he's just getting like spitballed in the face. Like I was laughing. Like, and that's like it's part of what made it a great way to start the movie is the Turtles' relationship with not just April but also now Vern, and that they have like sort of a contentious but friendly like rivalry sort of thing going on with him.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoy Will Arnett. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he's fun to
funny.
watch. He's definitely fun to watch.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about some of the recast people. The Shredder. They've not only recostumed them, but they've recast them. Brian T. Is now the Shredder. But let's first talk about the costuming, because one of the things that from the first one that they learned very quickly was that people didn't like the over the top. I mean, that costume in the first one was just a little bit too much.
Didn't bother me. I mean, if you're gonna bring it into today, it didn't bother me as much. But in this one, you understand why it was well, let's just say subdued. I mean, he was coming out of prison. He's not gonna have his costume on. He's gotta, redo this costume. He wasn't under his helmet the entire time. Definitely, I think for Shredder, I mean, to see him out of his mask for such an extended duration,
that was new.
That's all new. I liked his new blades and how that was used. I was fine with what they did. I didn't complain from the last time, but I liked.
Well, the suit, right, in terms of costuming, it says gray, black, spiked armor. It's based off of the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's why they kind of, and again, but they knew very much, so they went in complete opposite way. They had to dial it down because of that first one.
Yeah.
My only thing with him, I don't mind necessarily the recasting. Obviously, this movie was recast quite a bit. And we'll talk about Tyler Perry, but I wish he had a little bit more to do, at least at the end. He was just such a pawn to Krang.
He was like Boba Fett. The next thing you know, he's like taken out of the action. Seemingly, well, he's just gone. And he was dispatched pretty easily. And
I thought they would kind of do like a teaser where, he's still, alive, because there's that whole passage of time, and if you're not thinking about him, then he's just completely gone from the movie.
Right.
And I think this is where if there is a sequel, this is where it's kind of because Shredder's still just frozen.
Right. I know I stayed to the very, 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 very end to see if there was going to be a Shredder button. No. I was like, I could have gone. You mean I could have left for the bathroom 10 minutes earlier?
It was a little sudden.
Yeah.
Like when he froze. Like, I don't mind the beat of him just getting frozen and stored in Krang's vault in the Technodrome. I think it would have maybe been more powerful had the Turtles gotten there and they're there and Shredder, and maybe he's going after them, and that's when Krang freezes him. He's like, I don't care about your squabbles, and stores him at that point. So it becomes oh, you thought that was the boss? No,
right.
Krang is the boss.
Yes.
That would have been an interesting way to do it, but I mean, the beat makes sense of Krang just betraying him and storing him.
Absolutely.
And for the simplicity's sake of for the younger audience, you betray your guy, you betray Baxter, and you get betrayed as well.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. I do. I got it, but I think again, for me, I still would have liked to see just a little bit more something out of Shredder, just in that way.
Just a little more. Yeah. I mean, again, he so long, see ya. He was dispatched pretty quickly. I thought there was going to be more of him in the fight.
I thought so too. I mean, he this time around he has a lot of his minions do a lot of the work, and Shredder's always been this one to complain about things not getting done correctly. And then, in the first movie, the 90s version, that's where he says, I go myself. I finish this, whatever he said. And so that kind of became the staple of who he is as a person. And to kind of just let Bebop and Rocksteady, who he knows is just absolutely ridiculous, do his bidding. I would like to see a little bit more out of him.
Same here.
But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Make your own Turtles
Make
movie.
your own turtle
That's
movie.
What we're going to do.
You know what? I will, with real turtles. It'll be real boring. Which, by the way, you know what? Shout out, check out. There's a great YouTube channel called Film Theory. It's actually pretty fun. He talked about could there be real Mutant Ninja Turtles in New York, and while highly unlikely, he actually states how it could happen. So worth checking out.
Well, I'm sure there are many a turtle in the sewage system of New York, as well as a lot of other things like
watch that
alligators.
episode.
You gotta start by looking for giant dandelions in the middle of waste sites.
Sure.
That's how you know.
That's how you know.
All right, let's talk Tyler Perry as Dr. Baxter Stockman. I didn't mind him. I just thought he was. Here's the thing. Like, I thought he was doing a Medea bit. I always like Tyler Perry better when he's not doing his own movies. No offense. Like in Gone Girl, I thought he was. Oh, he's actually a good actor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. Outside of the fact that his motivations for being in this movie were his kids. Mm-hmm. He wanted his kids. He wanted to do something that his kids liked. His kids would. He'd be able to show to his kids. He's such a. Worked on many. I worked on many Tyler Perry movies, and he is a man that just does not sit still. Mm-hmm. And he, between his television shows that he produces and the movies that he directs, writes, and produces, and his one-man stage shows that he writes and produces and directs, and then he wants to branch out of movies. So he's in Gone Girl. He played a bit part in the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. Having him show up here, he sort of sticks out a little, but he didn't. I understand why he's in it. And hey, listen, if he's on board and he's having a good time, which I read in interviews, he said, he approaches this in a way because these aren't the movies that he makes. He doesn't make big budgeted movies. He doesn't make Gone Girl. He doesn't make Star Trek movies. His movies are geared to a particular audience. They're done on a low budget. So for him, he even says it's an opportunity for me to learn. Mm-hmm. I go onto the set. These aren't sets that I ever deal with, work with. So I get to work with these creative people and I see how they do it, and I always learn. Will there ever be a Tyler Perry action movie? Who knows with this guy? Because he's always thinking. But I just like that. I don't care if it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. I want to be in it. My kids will be happy, and I'm gonna come out of it, and I may learn technique, craft. How do you deal with a big budget movie like this? I respect that in the man, that he's a man that people can say he's reached his top, but he wants to learn more. You can't disrespect that.
I can't. I can't. The only thing, he's just such a noticeable person that's what becomes slightly distracting. And again, I don't know a solution for that.
Yeah.
In terms of what he can do for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the from a studio side, you just recast it, but
right.
Again, that doesn't benefit him.
Yeah. So, in his laugh, he said he came up with that on his own. And he didn't, when he came up with it, he said, oh, I'm going to stick with that. That's it. That Baxter, what's the last name of that character?
Baxter Stockman.
Yeah, Baxter Stockman, who plays a part in the cartoon, at least I know of. And he was fine. I understand, you get why he's doing it.
Zach, what's because I forget what's Stockman's kind of backstory, and I know he like mutates, right, or something.
I have to look up. I don't remember if he
does end up mutating.
But he is like, I mean, in the again, like I haven't read the old comics in so long. It's the modern run.
He has a fly form, the fly form, right? And I always found that part of the storyline to be annoying in the cartoons, which is probably why I just don't like Stockman as a character.
Yeah, he felt in the modern run, which is the more recent thing that my recent Turtle experience was reading that. He is a scientist again. I'm a little behind on it. I'm not sure if he's taken fly form yet. I mainly remember that now, but now it's all coming together because I just have the video game thing in my head. It's like Big Apple, 3 a.m. If anyone who grew up playing Turtles in Time remembers that one sound effect.
Absolutely. By the way, for anyone who wants to know, I'm stuck in 2003. Any references post to I don't know. I don't know. I know everything prior to 2003. So
listen, for Tyler Perry, this is potential sequel for him to potentially be in. When he finds the time to fit into his schedule, he does stick out, but so long as he's not wearing a Medea dress, It's fine that he likes to branch out and whatnot. And to your point, he was really much better than I would have anticipated in Gone Girl.
Yeah. I mean, that showed he can act.
Yeah,
he can act.
Absolutely.
For whatever it's worth, I would love to see Tyler Perry play the Fly version of Baxter Stockman in what I'm assuming will eventually be the third movie in this franchise.
As of now, he said he's beat down, and if he is down, then he says that's the natural progression of his character. So, whether that's as a revenge story against Shredder for having him taken away, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Kaori, basically the right hand person of Shredder. She's another one that got recast. Not 100% sure why, but this time around it's Brittany Ishibashi, who herself was a fangirl of the character. So, I thought she did fine for this role.
She was fine. I mean, if I'm correct, she seemed to have a little bit of a lesser role in this movie than that character had in the first movie.
I don't even remember her. I mean, I remember her in the early parts,
right?
Because she was the one responsible for the containers and so forth. But after that, I don't remember her much.
Yeah. No, and Brittany stepping into this, and again, when you're replacing somebody, you step into this role, and she played it fine. She was, again, it would have been. I understand, So for me saying this, like, what more is she going to lend to this story? This is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story. She's a henchman. She's not necessarily a foot soldier, but she's just a henchman who
we can work our way to the leg.
Yeah. So, she was fine. She was good.
Let's talk about the police chief, Laura Linney.
That was my biggest surprise.
Why is that? Just because she didn't do so well, or just because of the clout of the actress?
I guess not because she didn't do so well. I didn't know that she was in this movie. That almost seemed like I knew Tyler was in the movie because I think he's in the trailer. I don't recall seeing her in the trailers. And if she was, it completely went over my head because when I saw her, I'm like, wait, I know her. Wait, she's in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I said, well, good on her, I guess.
It threw me off so much. I was like, is that, like, I was so confused until the credits. I was like, there's no way that's actually Laura Linney.
I was the same way.
I wonder if, like, she was another character I just felt was so just not well written in terms of, like, I just, this, and not even that, like, this is an established character, just, like, they treated her like she was dumb. Like, this is a character not playing to the top of her intelligence. Like, not even, like, dialogue-wise, like, oh, she's talking like a child or an adult. Like, she just, like, was not behaving intelligently as the chief of police in a city where Shredder just, like, laid waste with, like, his Foot Clan, and everyone's aware, and you're one sole surviving member of, like, clearly an attack where your trucks blew up tells you there were ninjas attacking the place. I feel like you listen to him, not fire him.
Yeah.
Well, you could be crazy, so you never,
they were totally writing broad strokes here. She plays that chief of police role that's not going to listen to Casey Jones, who wants to be a detective, and he mouths off, and she's like, I want to be a detective. She's like, good luck with that. Again, so, like, this movie characterization wise, and again, I forgive it because I'm talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was just, to me, like you said, it was just a shock to see her, and it took me out, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't even know. Wait, is that really? Wait, who is she? Like, well, how's she in this movie?
Here's what she says. She has a quote that says this, and it's not particular to this movie, but it's just a general quote of hers that says, "Go work. It doesn't matter what it is. Work begets work. Just go."
Yeah.
So going off of that philosophy, you can see why she ended up here.
Yeah, there were worse projects she could have taken, and I didn't dislike her at all. It sort of just took me out for a moment because, again, unless I missed something in the trailers, which is a possibility, I didn't go through them, with a fine-tooth comb. It was a surprise to see her in this movie, and like Zach experienced, it sort of kind of took me out for a second, going, "Wait, is that who? Wow. Okay. They got, caliber. What did you think?
I thought she was fine. To me, she didn't. She didn't add or take away anything.
Sure.
She was a neutral character.
Yeah.
But Bebop and Rocksteady, those you couldn't have not known about in this movie. And I was super excited because, I am a WWE fan, so Sheamus in this movie to me was fantastic. I did find it hilarious when they called him Finnish because he's clearly he's not Finnish. He's from Ireland. He's Irish.
Right.
But they say he's Finnish because he finishes everything. And Zach, you and I were talking about it, and you had a kind of good perspective on it, where they just let them be as dumb as possible.
Yeah, I mean, they were silly. Like, that's what those characters are, like, most fun when they, like those characters when they're just behaving like stupid gangsters are fun. And, like, the fact that they, like, let them be the, like, 80s, 90s versions of those characters, like, down to the purple, like, razor eyeline glasses and the mohawk. Like, this is clearly somebody who grew up, like, with the cartoon and loves the cartoon and wanted to adapt it. Like, between Bebop and Rocksteady, the way they behave, the way that they're designed, and the turtle van, like, this
the
is
turtle
like,
van.
You love this, like, the creators of this movie love this property.
Yes.
And you can feel, like, regardless of any, like, missteps maybe in, like, writing or, like, dialogue story, like, this was clearly made by people who love this property, and it shows. And as a fan, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and Bebop and Rocksteady there were always those henchmen, the bumbling henchmen, who always ended up losing at the end by doing something stupid and comedical, but they never got fired from their jobs. they were still always the go-to guys. And the two actors, Stephen Farrelly and Gary Anthony Williams, who played them, I thought they played them great. They were like, and by great I mean they were just fun to watch. Whether they were in human form, they were fun to watch. But then when they became Bebop and Rocksteady, it was like, hey, look at me, I'm fat. Do I look fat? Like, that dialogue, it was like, to your point, totally from the cartoon. But it works. It works.
And I like their introduction of their respect and appreciation of Shredder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, gotta say something.
Yeah.
And Mr. Great, big fan of your walk.
Yeah.
I can't do the Irish accent, but
yeah. And at the same time, though, the movie gives them their sense of how strong they are. Mm-hmm. Especially that scene where they're chasing Casey Jones through the cars, and the cars are like, you got a good sense of, like, their strength, as you did in the cartoon and in the video game too. They had some, that they were tough opponents to take down in the earlier Nintendo games, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that stuff. It was fun. Go ahead.
They were silly. Like, it's silly. Like we're like, okay, we gotta smash open this meteorite. So, like, was it Bebop, like, grabs Rocksteady's head and just runs it into the meteorite? Yeah. Like, what logic are you, like, how is that supposed to help? But it's funny.
It's funny
because they're so dumb.
Yeah,
so dumb.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Before we talk about the techno drone and other quick plot points, let's talk about the turtles, right? You had mentioned, Demetri, their characterization. I thought that's what worked really well in general. They all had a drive, and the way they split them up, of some wanting to be out of the shadows and others not. And obviously Leo versus Raph, that's always been an ongoing thing. And this time it comes to fruition. The characterizations just in general worked really well,
Absolutely.
My only nitpick was when they were introducing them, I was really hoping that, Michelangelo, a party dude, and, that they went off of those versus, they put Michelangelo, pizza lover.
Right.
And, so they didn't quite go with what they're known for.
Party dude, yeah. My own, again, I guess, and it's just a minor complaint, too. There's got to be a time where, like, that first movie really did make it a point that
1990 version.
The last movie really made it a point of banding these brothers together because they were so, in a sense, they each had their ideals and how they wanted to do things, and it brought them together as brothers. So you sort of kind of figure that that's sort of kind of in the past. But yeah, we come into this movie and it seemed like they didn't come much farther away. Again, I know I'm talking about a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, and that eventually they're going to have to come together. They're brothers. We got to work together. I'm just not sure how much longer you milk that theme. There's got to be a time, maybe in the next movie, where they are cohesive, in a sense, from a movie sense. Outside of that, I thought that the way that they were played, I got a great sense of the motion capture worked really well with their facial expressions and their eyes in particular. And in their fighting and action sequences.
They did say what was nice around this time around was they knew what to envision now, the final product, because when you're first doing it, like, what the hell? Like, what's the end product? What am I going for? Yeah. And so now when you can at least a little bit visualize it and reverse engineer it, you're like, okay, I get what the end product is going to be, and I know how to act towards that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And they were doing such a good job that Megan Fox said that she had forgotten that they were in these mocap suits within the first 10 minutes of filming the first movie. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, says a lot to these people's, to the real actor's character. Because they're coming onto set, we're making a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're going to do the best we can, but we're in these silly outfits, we want to have fun, but I think that's what the Turtles are all about too, is like, having fun. And I think these actors, from Jeremy Howard to Pete Plazek, I believe, I'm forgetting, Noel Fisher did a really good job. Alan Ritchson. You can tell that these guys on set, they spent so much time together that they really had a great camaraderie, both on set and off set.
Yeah, and Jeremy, who plays Donatello, he always loved Donatello, so that was that worked out for him. And Pete actually got to, who plays Leonardo, he not only got to do this time around the motion capture, but they utilized his voice, which last time around it was dubbed by Johnny Knoxville. And I was half wondering, as I was listening to it, I was like, wait, it kind of half sounds like Johnny Knoxville, but is it Johnny Knoxville? And I don't know. I can't. I like the fact that he gets rewarded for putting in that work.
Sure.
But hopefully it doesn't mean anything for Johnny Knoxville. So, because I'm a fan of his too.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't available, or maybe they just realized why. If we have a person who can do this, why do we need to farm out? No offense to Johnny Knoxville, but if you have your actor there, like, there's no need, and he's emoting enough, and he's giving enough to his core group and to Megan Fox and to Stephen. Why go out? I didn't notice a difference.
Well, I think they were banking on Johnny Knoxville's name, bringing a few more people into the theaters in the first round, and probably just it didn't. So it was like, well, if he's not going to boost our sales, we might as well use the guy that maybe we liked a little more creatively. Because I don't know that Johnny Knoxville really brought anything next level. Not that he did a bad job the first time around, but nothing like he didn't elevate it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was his the only voice that they didn't use in the first
well, I think
Turtles movie?
Splinter, just like with this one, right? It was motion captured, but someone else voiced it.
Tony Shalhoub did Splinter. Okay,
yeah.
So he's not in the. Okay,
yeah, he's not in the suit.
Yeah.
As it were, yeah.
I can't imagine him doing this, being Splinter in the mocap. Although I would pay to see that.
That would be funny.
Absolutely.
That would be funny. And now that we're talking about like voicing too, I thought that it was very interesting that there was a change in plans doing Krang's voice.
Yes.
And according to LA Times, the film's antagonist was voiced by Brad Garrett, but that wasn't the original voice for it. Who were they going with?
They were going with. You threw me for a loop. I have to go
Sorry
back a
about
page.
Fred Armisen was the person.
Yes,
he was to originally do that voice, and they couldn't work it out, so they bring in Brad Garrett, who I thought again unrecognizable to me. I didn't notice that was.
Yeah, I had no idea that was Brad Garrett.
To be fair, he was in the movie a lot less this time, than the first one.
For Krang. Krang's voice? He did
yes.
Krang, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So it worked out. Let's talk about the plot line, because we've talked characters, but not necessarily plot. Let's talk about the whole idea of bringing in the Technodrome and the three pieces. Obviously a very simple plot, but I thought a nice catalyst for all of it. Mm-hmm. And when the Technodrome kind of finally is assembling, I thought it built up well towards that.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked seeing the Technodrome. I think it was appropriately threatening to the city, that it gave them something to work against. I think the setup for the hunt for the three pieces was a little silly and wacky, not necessarily in a good way, but once it got the story going, and once that motion got started, it was good. It served the purpose of driving the movie forward that it needed to.
Yeah, I think that journey getting to there, that's where I felt this movie was a little long. Mm-hmm. Like there was a lot of there's a lot of, for lack of better phrasing, downtime. Like there was a lot of dialogue searching for this, where I was like, how can we condense it? How can we make this a little shorter? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, much like a comedy, doesn't need to be close to 2 hours. You could have made this an hour and 35, maybe an hour.
I think
40.
the irony is, right, so the movie is 135 million. The first one was 125. The first one came in at an hour and 40. This one comes in at around an hour and 50, so $1 million per minute.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what it seems to come to.
It didn't. I don't think it needed to be so long. We could have. I don't know how they would have gotten to that point quicker.
I think there was ways. I mean, what I did appreciate though, and what I loved about this was that obviously they had their quarrels and they kind of were fighting, but then before they could really dive deeper into the fights, which would have been too serious. Something happened and they had to be spurred into action, and then they kept just arguing during the action. Mm-hmm. And especially like that whole Brazil sequence, was when it comes to fruition, where Leo's like, "Oh, you guys suck," and I this and that, like you guys ruined it. So I enjoyed that where they took the argument and put action behind it.
But again, did they actually need to go to Brazil to film that? It's not like we got a panoramic view of beautiful Brazil. I was just like, wow, they actually went to Brazil to film that. I was like, okay, well, that goes for the
listen,
up in
the crew
budget.
got to go to Brazil.
The crew got to go to Brazil.
Yeah, tax breaks are good everywhere.
Sure they are. But
I can imagine that conversation.
They could have gone to the Ozarks and called it Brazil.
I imagine, especially on a film where like clearly there's a lot of like big studio involvement, like they're like, we get a tax break if we go to Brazil.
I get that.
Write that into the script.
Right. Yeah, and plus I haven't been to Brazil in a while.
Somebody just wanted to go to Brazil.
Somebody
at the
just
studio.
wanted to go to Brazil.
They needed a good excuse to expense the trip.
Yeah, and let's do it in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of all movies.
They only did one sequence
I
there,
know.
so like they easily could have just been like, I wanted to go to Brazil. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Make it happen on one of our films.
Yeah, I hear Rio's nice this time of year.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what I hear.
Yeah, well.
Well, they got to go and it ended up working fine.
I would have loved to spend more time in the Technodrome. That's more of like a fan thing. To see more from like Krang's forces, I think would have been fun. Like see the rock soldiers, or more for me, if we'd gotten to see Mousers in this, I would have lost it. That's like, to see the turtles fight little Mouser bots would have been a lot of fun. And
and I'm not going to. I agree with you. Like, you had such a big build up to this, and yes, it looked threatening and whatnot. It was good special effects there. It looked really good. I'll bring it up now, but this movie did look really good in like the 3D premium large screen format.
They took advantage of
a
height and depth perception really well, especially early on and during those moments as well.
The action, I find, wasn't overly blurry. I can follow it easy enough. And in regards to the Technodrome, when it was piecing itself together, it looked really good, very well done. I agree with you. When you're building up to something that much, let's tighten this movie up more so we can spend more time in the Technodrome. Let's not go to Brazil. Let's put more money so we're in the Technodrome a little bit longer, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Technodrome was a green screen. People were like, Brazil's a little bit nicer.
That's true.
I don't know. I like it from a structural standpoint. I actually don't know that I needed more in the Technodrome. It was purely just as a fan. There was stuff that I would have loved to see. But like I get like it because the whole thing where it's like forming and then them breaking it up before it has to form. That all worked for me in terms of like story. Like I got it and it made sense and it was a very clear, if we do this, we win goal that just helped it move along without getting overly drudged down in unnecessary plot details. Like, well, we have to find this room in the Technodrome in order to. It was faster.
But and I get that. But you being as a fan, I'm sure that there are many other fans who would echo what you're saying. Like they would have liked to have seen maybe the mouse. The Mausers, like, I just think when you're building up to something so big, like, it would have been nice just to see maybe a little bit more. But it didn't have to be a half hour more.
But I think that's where, again, I don't mind it because that's where the third one could potentially do it.
Sure, that's
right?
True.
So I'm fine with it taking its time in that regard. Let's talk about Dave Green. One of the things that Demetri and I were joking about right before we started was the boys got asked a question of what's Jonathan like versus Dave, and do you want to paraphrase the responses?
It was actually basically it came down to one word. Number one, they all felt awkward, and so there was a little bit of tension, and basically it came down to one word, and that word was kindness. And then the others sort of stammered for a moment as the reporters exchanged surprised glances, and they were like, really? Kindness? And Plosnick was the guy who says, well, I'll put it this way. Dave Green is 32. He grew up with the same guys, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Not that Liebsman was much older, but he's from South Africa. Joking, they don't have TV down there. Like, so they were trying to be, they were joking around with it, but they did say, with Dave, what was communicated to us early on was how much of a fan he is and really gets it. And Fisher came back and said, to be fair, and I believe it was Fisher, Liebman was put into a position where he had to make this movie. And like you said earlier on, it sounds more like he was under Paramount constraint that he had to get A, B, C, D done and had to put it forth this way, where it seemed that they gave Dave a little bit more leeway to make this more of a fan-based movie, get this back on track. Not that it ever was fully derailed, but it appears as if even the cast connected with Dave a little bit more than with Liebsman, and they were kind to Liebsman. They didn't say that he was a complete ogre. They understood the position he was in for launching this franchise, which at the time here's the other thing too. What does Paramount have? Like
Star Trek, barely.
But right, but outside of that, like they within the past so many years have lost so much. So if they're quote unquote rebuilding franchises and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is it, and it's Michael Bay, who they already have this relationship with via Transformers and such, that first movie, they really focused time and attention to like, we need to really market the hell out of this and make this a hit, because we got nothing. They were putting more marketing, I feel, even as a Star Trek person, they're putting more marketing into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than they have thus far for Star Trek. And Star Trek is going into its 50th anniversary year. Like, this should be their Skyfall, but they were putting more money into this.
I think maybe they think this needs more marketing. I think that Star Trek, the audience is mostly already there. Because the first one was such a success. The second one, maybe a little less so, but still enough that I don't think you have people questioning whether or not they're going to go back for the third go-around. And, they still have some time to do that big final push. But I think this because the first one had such a at best lukewarm reception. If you were gonna get people into the theaters for Out of the Shadows, you needed a lot of marketing to really sell what this was and why you should go see it.
And let's face it, they've had a ton of marketing, but I hear what you're saying regarding Star Trek, but if you remember when MGM Sony was marketing for Skyfall, that was James Bond's 50th anniversary. And to your point, yes, you're going to get the James Bond fans to go, but Skyfall, because of their marketing push, they actually made a solid movie. But in pure fact, their marketing push was so geared to this 50th anniversary that really helped get more people who may not have seen a Bond movie in a while to go to the theaters. You know, I would expect on the same level that Paramount would showcase this Star Trek being 50th anniversary. And, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they spent a ton. I mean, there were crossover promotions, candies, and fast food, and they were doing things. I felt they spent more money on this than they did the previous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The only thing I didn't see on this one was a pizza tie-in.
Well, I don't know about the pizza thing, but there is an article in terms of the promotion where, and you know, the question of a sequel comes up of like, okay, well, will there be a sequel? And there's a great article that says, yeah, regardless of how much money this movie actually ends up making, because of the toy tie-in and all the ancillary merchandise, yeah, you know, because this movie fuels all that offset for Nickelodeon and everyone, more so for Nickelodeon's purposes rather than Paramount, but that's probably the reason why.
Yeah.
Also, advertising for this also ends up being advertising for their TV shows as well.
Yeah.
Because it just keeps people talking about the Turtles, and the more they do that, the more they sell everything from the comics to the TV shows to the toys. It's all marketing for the same basic product.
Yeah. Was there again, there's one thing I did not notice this time around because I think it was Domino's. Or could it have been Pizza Hut?
It was Pizza Hut the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time, but I didn't notice a pizza tie-in for this one, which I'm very surprised. Like, why wouldn't you, like, tie in with Pizza Hut again?
I think this time, was it Domino? What was the delivery guy? Was he dressed in a little bit blue?
In this one, it was a generic pizza.
It was a generic
joint.
pizza.
And just looking at the pizza, I'm like, no, that looks like good pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm from New York. I'm a snob.
Yeah. Oh, you and me both. I'm not from New York, but being from the East Coast, I'm a pizza snob as well. I was just of all the things that were crossing over into marketing wise, and I get you want to sell your merchandise. I was just really curious as to why I haven't seen a pizza tie-in. Period. Yeah, but
I agree.
But I did see a lot of marketing on this movie. It was out there.
It could have been as simple as the Pizza Hut didn't get
what they wanted,
didn't get the response they wanted last time, and they couldn't agree on terms.
Yeah, whatever the case.
What were they looking for? I mean, they were.
Yeah, whatever the case may be, I figured if I'm Paramount Marketing, I would do whatever it takes to get some pizza, something, in this movie because we want to sell more pizzas too. But
there's a great video that Demetri had about motion capture that I want to kind of go to. We won't play the full thing, but we'll play sort of the last bit of it. If you guys again want the full video of it, check it out in our rundown. There's links to various stuff and also behind the scenes videos as well. There's some, you know, there's not much to the ones that I had provided, but you're basically watching people just act.
Yeah.
But this one is much more of an actual edited version and whatnot. So anything else to add before we...
Well, I was just going to say, look, I think as movie fans, we've all seen various behind-the-scenes footage of mocap, okay? And how it's come through cinema and technology. What I found to be cool with this is that this one shows, and again, maybe it's not breaking new ground, but we're seeing layers upon layers of what need to be done. So we're seeing our actors in their costumes, which are bulky costumes, and then as you'll see as the video progresses, well, just watch the video and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Let's hit it.
Cameras on their head.
Our performances have to hold up next to those live actors. So when April or Casey Jones are standing there talking, our turtles have to feel as real and as alive.
The airplane scene, one of my favorite scenes, especially because rap. Nah, we just basically did a promo for it.
There you go.
Anyway, but check
if
out the full video.
If you watch that full video, you'll see some of the the technology involved, the special effects, and you get an appreciation. Andy Serkis has made a career out of doing this, and he's the standard, he's the high bar, and when you see these kids doing it, you notice that they take their time, attention to detail. Facial movements, like they can't have their mouth open at a certain angle, and they realize this, and they're working together and just making sure that they're doing it right. Make sure that their eyes, that we get to see their eyes, and it just lends so much more to what is happening as we see these characters evolve. They've come a long way since those costumes, which again at that time, that was breakthrough, that they were puppeted costumes in a sense. So, technology has made its course, and it's they're fully realized in these movies.
I will always love the Muppet Turtles.
The Muppet Turtles.
Well, because Jim Henson's company was
Same
the one that
here.
designed them. So
Yeah.
in my mind, they are Muppets.
Yeah, that's a great way to put them. But when you look at how they were articulated as well, they really were brought to life. And then they took them on stage shows. They were on freaking Oprah.
Let's forget about those days.
Well, I'm just saying, they would go to talk shows. That's how popular the Turtles were.
Yeah.
I definitely attended at least one of those concerts.
There you go.
Or watched it on VHS. I can't remember entirely. But I know that I think I talked about this when we covered on Guilty Movie Pleasures. We watched The Secret of the Ooze, the other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too. And I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kazoo. That was how deep the marketing was. I had a kazoo that was from like Turtles.
Now, Secret of the Ooze, because I think this is going to bring up a fun Easter egg. Secret of the Ooze was the Vanilla Ice, right?
Yeah. Go Ninja Go.
Go Ninja Go. And in this movie, they mentioned Vanilla Ice, which was really funny. It would have been fun if they had actually brought him into the movie.
Well, he showed up at the premiere.
Yeah.
In the most, if you watch the video, it's one of the most awkward things because half the people in that theater have no idea who he is. And he's up on stage with 3 out of 4, not all of the original Turtles, but 3 out of 4 of the original costume Turtles singing Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. And it's just really awkward for everyone.
That's really funny. I will say this, just while we're talking Vanilla Ice a little bit, Fox had brought him out at CinemaCon. Not that he's in a movie for Fox, but Fox did this great elaborate Vegas-style opening to their show, and they brought out Vanilla Ice. The crowd ate it up. I mean, he's totally... he's embraced it. He was having fun with it. I was expecting maybe a resurgence, but after your reception that you just described, maybe not.
Probably not.
Ice baby.
I think too. I mean, I don't know. In some ways, it's good that this is getting its own life form. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I think that for me, now I can separate these two sort of versions of the characters, and I can respect and appreciate both rather than be like, oh, the 90s movie, it's the only one.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we talked a lot about promotion. Let's, as we start to wrap things up, again, there's various things that, due to time, we always end up cutting, but let's talk about box office and reception. It didn't do as well as the first one, obviously. It was projected to do between 30 and 40 million. Ended up opening weekend. What did it end?
35.3.
So
it came in number one. It did come in number one. It currently, as of I believe yesterday's number, 44 million. thus far. Foreign 35. You know, they have a worldwide gross of 79. Let's just call it $80+ million of a worldwide gross. What I was a bit surprised at was the budget on this movie, $135 million. You know, when you're featuring all the marketing that they put in, the hard drives and the prints, and let's just say that this movie opened up. This movie opened up in over 4,000 locations. 4,071 theaters across the country domestically. That's a lot of theaters. You know, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money going out. You got to figure that their total budget, I'm going to say, is about 180, maybe onwards and upwards to 200. But at the very base, at least 180. So, you know, we'll see how it does going down the pike in its second weekend and all. There aren't that really, right now, there aren't that many kids' movies. So to
Finding Dory is
it's coming out. It's coming. So they have a little bit of breathing room. But just to give you an idea of the opening weekend gross, that first Ninja Turtle movie that had come out opened up to $65 million. That's that, you know, in this one 35. That's about half. I'm not sure that the total domestic gross, the first one did $191 million. You know, we're at 46 right now. 40. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting climb. You know, and just to give you an idea too, worldwide gross, the worldwide summary, Ninja Turtles, the first one, $493 million worldwide. That's a lot. That's a lot of pizza. It's a lot of pizza going in. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how this holds up in the weeks to come, and the direction they take, if and when they'll announce that there's going to be a 3.
Everyone is signed off to do a third one, including the guy who plays Eric Sachs. One of the things we didn't talk about, that if we can just for a moment, like, what did you guys think about him? Because he was signed on, and then we just don't get him in the movie. I'm glad, because I don't think we needed it.
Who is that?
Zach, who played Eric Sachs?
You know, I'll have to.
What the hell is his name? The actor, you know, he's the main villain apart from Shredder in the first one.
Oh, the scientist guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Why am I blanking on who the actor is?
I don't know, but we have Tyler Perry as our mad scientist.
We got that, but it was made such a big deal. There it is.
I hear
Is that
you.
William Fichtner?
That's
Yes,
it.
William Fichtner.
That's it. But it was such a big deal to have him in the first one, and he was signed for a 3-movie contract, which, again, I just found interesting that he just wasn't in this one.
Yeah. I mean, you already had a mad scientist. I don't know what you do with 2 mad scientists in this movie. And, you know,
well, one's more bumbling than the other.
Sure.
You know, this one, he's a lot more serious and a lot more
Could be
accomplished.
darker. Yeah.
Whereas
So.
Baxter is. Anyway.
It makes sense. I mean, I don't think he was like, they signed the contracts like just in case, and then I didn't think you needed him in this movie by any means.
Yeah. No, I'm certainly
especially
glad.
if you're changing tone too, which they clearly changed tone in this movie than the first one. So it's just an interesting comparison to see, you know, what will Out of the Shadows end up doing, and how is it going to change their future going forward? You know, with
here's the interesting part, right? This is like, at this point, like, the third movie in just a matter of 2 weeks. A- on Cinema Score, Rotten on Rotten Tomatoes with a 36.
Okay, I had 34 on Rotten Tomatoes, but yeah.
Well, it might have gone up since last time.
Yeah, maybe. It's one of those weird summers where audiences, you know, are not agreeing with what the critics say. However, it almost appears too that sometimes there is a faction of the audience that is looking at a Rotten Tomatoes and maybe not going to see the movie. But the people who are going are enjoying it. It's an A-. Sometimes these movies are tough to do for a cinema score because you're asking a 12-year-old kid to pull a tab as to whether or not he liked the movie and whatnot. But an A-, you would think that would be good word of mouth. But who are you getting that good word of mouth from? You know, are you getting it? You know, if dad is talking to his neighbor, said, "Yeah, I just took my kid to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought it was okay," or is he going to say, "Yeah, my son loved it. Go ahead and see the movie"? You know, I was talking to a good friend of mine just yesterday, who has a 10-year-old son, and and I told him that I saw this. He says, "Oh, you think Cannon will like it?" And I said, "Yeah, if he liked the first one, I think he's gonna like this one more. I think it's funnier." And so, you know, he'll more than likely take his son to go see this movie.
Very cool.
I wonder if it's something to do with if critics are being a little bit harder on these types of movies than they used to. I know for me, like, just because we review movies, like, I come down on them a little more because I've now seen more examples of when they can, like, they can be better. Like, I've seen so many good examples, whatever age group they're for, like, these adaptations and remakes, like, they can be fantastic and they can be great. So I'm holding them to a higher standard now. I wonder if that's part of the critics being a little harsher and the audience pretty much staying where they were.
To an extent, I mean, I don't know. I always try to judge movies on their own merit, and I also try to understand, okay, what is the goal trying to be accomplished here at the end of the day? You know, like this movie, right? We mentioned Gone Girl. This movie is not trying to be Gone Girl and go after accolades upon accolades.
No. And can we look up if it's easy to go on Rotten Tomatoes and look up what the first the one that opened up in a couple of years ago and how that was received? I have a feeling if it was a little bit higher, it might have been only like 10 points higher.
I don't think it was even higher.
So for the record, the 2014 one got a 22%.
It's lower.
Versus 34% for this one. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from 1990 had a 40%, and the sequel, Secret of the Ooze, got a 33%.
Fascinating.
So not a lot of critical love for the Turtles, regardless.
And it's funny because the first the one where the Henson did the suits, I remember part of the reason I ended up going to see that movie was I did find some solid reviews saying, you know what, this is a fun, good family movie with a good message. That's the other thing too. The Turtles, in one way, shape, or form, back in there was always a positive message to be had. This one, the message ship, like, I'm not sure what, yes, working together, being brothers, it's there. Those earlier ones, it was very blatant that this is a message type, a positive message for kids to take home with them when they left the theater. So, I have no idea. Critics seem to like this one more than they did the first one. I do. But to our point, to your point, we talked about this on Alice. Like, I don't understand, like, what is the reason for really coming down? Unless this movie is just so god-awful that it has no redeeming qualities. I don't know what you're expecting when you go in. Now, I would give this movie out of 4. I would give it maybe 2. Yeah, like, I was entertained. It didn't make me angry. Like, that is what... It didn't make me angry. I walked out and I said, yeah, well, I saw that. Didn't make me angry. I was entertained for close to 2 hours. It didn't suck. Yeah. It was... I've seen worse movies.
I will tease this up. The movie we're about to do another dissection on, Pop Star, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and did even worse than this one. Yeah. So I don't know what that should do. You want a good cinema score, or
Pop
do you
Star
want?
Dropped a lot.
Yeah, did it?
Yeah. Right now it's sitting at a 76.
Yeah. I just checked it yesterday with Stephen Lemieux. Yeah. All right. Well,
I want to ask you too, Zach, being you're a fan. Phil, you're a huge fan. I remember when the first movie came out.
I wanted to see the Turtles. I like the movies. You know. I mean, again, I didn't dive into the comics, and I've seen. I can't recite every single episode there ever was.
Right.
And unfortunately, I don't like the new episodes. I think they're too. I don't like the computer generated versions.
Yeah, again, Zach, you're as a fan. Your thoughts. I wasn't as big a fan as it seems as either one, but again, I can't hate these movies because I've seen worse movies. I've seen worse kids movies.
I mean, I don't hate these movies. They're not like they didn't. I've seen other movies, and I don't have a good example to give you right now that have like just done have not honored the thing that I loved that I went to see. This again what I love about the Turtles. This was a good representation of a version of them. Mm-hmm. I think if I was setting out to do a Turtles movie, I would want to see something more like what I'm getting in the comics right now. What I got in the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. That sort of darker look at them, because that can be the Turtles have that dynamic that they can be good. They can be very interesting and very they can be treated with more storytelling respect. It doesn't need to be schlocky storytelling like what we got in here, and I think that's why it's getting negative reviews, because while they're honoring the characters and the canon, they're not giving them the opportunity to tell a good story. It looks like the studio just sort of was they saw the first draft and they're that's decent, go make it, and not that was okay, go back and fix these plot points that aren't working, do another couple drafts, and then we'll go into production, which is what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. Well, regardless of what you think, the movie's out there, and I enjoyed it. So I recommend it to you guys.
As we got this song.
That's right, we did. As we wrap this out, I want to tell you guys that on last Anatomy of a Movie for X-Men Apocalypse, we mentioned to you guys that we would have John Ottman. We did have John Ottman in. We did that interview earlier today, so check that out on popcorntalk.com. We did it as an iTalk Movies. That way we can talk all things with John Ottman, not specifically just about X-Men Apocalypse. Definitely worth checking out. And speaking of other Anatomy of Movies, check out all of them. We have over 250 things that we've done.
You know what I just got on Blu-ray not too long ago? It made me think I just got in The Finest Hours. Mm-hmm. And, remember we had such a great time in that podcast. So if you haven't seen that at the theaters, shame on you. Why didn't you? Because it looked fantastic on the big screen and even in 3D. But if you have the opportunity, should be on your on-demand or whatever, check the movie out and then check out our podcast for that, because we had the Coast Guard here to talk about the actual rescue mission. So we are a great archival thing. For whatever reason you missed it at the theaters, if you watch it on your home entertainment, you can come back and watch.
Deadpool's out on Blu-ray. Zach's happy. I know that much.
Oh, I bought that weeks ago.
Yeah. That's right. We're on check out our anatomy of it. Absolutely. Anyway, we've done it all. Check out our first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version. Yeah. We did an anatomy for that. Anyway, thank you guys for being with us at the Popcorn Talk. You can follow us there, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And check out our other videos. As Zach said, Guilty Movie Pleasures did Secret of the Ooze, so definitely worth checking out. That has Zach Wilson as well in it. In the meantime, D-Movies 1701.
Thank you. Yeah, support me on Twitter, please. And thanks for watching.
That's right. And that Zach Wilson's.
You guys can find me on Twitter at that Zach Wilson. And if you're a big science fiction fan, stay tuned to Popcorn Talk. In a week and a half, I'll be launching a new show, Sci-Fi Weekly, with Jesse Klein. We're going to be talking about all the news and talk about every sci-fi thing we can think of, because we're just nerding out hard.
That's right.
This June 22nd. Tune in for that.
All righty.
Nice.
That wraps it up. Thank you guys once again. We'll see you next time on Anatomy of a Movie.
Bye, all.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.